joining this afternoon. I think I must be somewhere between getting to the bar and now, based on this attendance, or maybe Guidewire solved updates. That would be even better, right? So before we get started, I would like to remind everybody that any future-looking statements and functionality strategy that we discussed today is all covered underneath our safe harbor statement. I'm Zach Griesbach, your presenter for this session. I know almost everybody in the room, which is pretty good. And a little bit about me, I've been working with Guidewire or in the ecosystem for a little more than 15 years now. First as a customer, next as a partner, and then finally for the most recent 10 years, directly for Guidewire in various leadership roles, from delivery all the way through product. Where today, I oversee cloud updates, the Guidewire testing framework, and some automated tooling such as assurances and the assurance checks, as well as our performance testing frameworks. So our agenda for today, we would like to take this opportunity to do a quick baseline on update knowledge. We'd also like to share with you and spend some time discussing the experience customers have had thus far with updates. After that, I'll move into covering what's new and what's changed with updates, since you've heard about it over the last couple of connections. And finally, there will be plenty of time at the end of the session for Q&A. So to maximize that time, let's go ahead and get started. Quickly to level set, updates are for cloud customers only, and upgrades are what self-managed customers are doing today. While the outcomes of these two actions are similar, you get updated tech, the accountability and process are very, very different. That is, customers are fully responsible for self-managed upgrades because they are large, disruptive, and require three-way manual merges, whereas Guidewire, on the other hand, is responsible for delivering ongoing cloud updates, where they're smaller, more frequent, less disruptive. Guidewire has carved out a layer meant to be modified by the customer and created a pathway for automating the update delivery. This session today is fully focused on cloud updates, not upgrades. And our current mission for updates is N-2. That means we support the current release and the previous two releases. Today that's Innsbruck is N, Hakuba is N-1, and Garmisch is N-2. With the release of Innsbruck, customers who are on the Flen release, N-3, must be looking for their update plan to stay technically current. And with our current mission being N-2, our vision is that all customers will only always be on the latest version, which means building a systematic way where you'll only always have N. So for technical currency, just as our body relies on blood to deliver essential nutrients to our system and maintain our overall health, modern software requires technical currency to remain relevant, efficient, secure, and competitive. With an ever-changing landscape, staying up to date is no longer just an advantage, it's a necessity. Technical currency ensures that our software has the resilience to withstand upcoming changes and the agility to adapt swiftly for new business opportunities. Imagine trying to use a computer that's more than a few years old to run your latest business applications. It's practically impossible. An up-to-date system doesn't just work better. In many cases, it's the only way technology will work together at all. And in the daily news, we hear about cyber attacks and security breaches. One of the primary defense mechanisms is having the latest up-to-date security protocols. We can think of this as an ever-growing shield against constantly changing threats. And as the adage goes, the only constant is change. With technical currency, we ensure that our systems are ready for the future, whether that involves integrating with emerging technologies or simply scaling to accommodate your growth. And at the end of the day, the real beneficiary of technical currency is our users. The most up-to-date system has the latest available features, has the best available user experience, and has a streamlined interface. And so we want our customers to have the best. Technical currency is how we deliver on that promise. Technical currency isn't just a technical term. It's Guidewire's commitment to excellence, security, and continuous improvement. And by prioritizing it at Guidewire, we are ensuring that our software remains a front runner delivering unparalleled value for everybody in the room. And many customers will ask about new features during updates. This diagram depicted shows and explains how new features are made available and enabled during an update process, and it has been effective since the Flen release. It's important to note that irrespective of system behaviors being changed, the customer layer is entirely preserved, and no new features are added to the customer layer during an update process. This gives the customer the ability to pick and choose which features they want to adopt. And new features in the Guidewire layer are included during an update. If the system behavior is changed, Guidewire will enable it via configuration, and if the system behavior is not changed, we can enable it by default. You can think of Guidewire layer features as being dormant and ready for your use. Looking at the documentation practices, if a customer is looking to adopt a feature in the customer layer, we've improved our practices to now include specific update adoption instructions, a list of the impacted files, also a guide explaining any merge overlap, as well as a relative sizing effort to adopt. So moving past our overview, which you may have heard for the last few years now, let's hear from a customer about their update experience. This is Definity in Canada.
16 years ago, when I started working in Guidewire, upgrades were very cumbersome. Never envisioned a time period where updates would happen very seamlessly. Earlier this year, we went live with Garmisch. This is our first update after we migrated to the cloud. We received the pre-merged code of Garmisch. Involved less than a handful of developers on our end to take that change, validate it, make sure there's no errors, and we went almost immediately right to testing. The update process was very seamless for Definity. Minimal investment from our perspective, no business outage. It showed the true value of the cloud for us.
That's awesome. I love hearing about the tremendous progress we've made on updates being recognized by a customer like Definity. Guidewire pre-validates each customer update to ensure there's no known update issues upon delivering it. We also check every Guidewire commit against all of our customers' configurations to make sure that we're not introducing any known issues. We also split those commits between the Guidewire layer and the customer layer to give our customers maximum flexibility and transparency into what's changed. Looking at the data for Hakuba and for Innsbruck, you'll notice a little bit of an asterisk. All this simply implies is that we are still delivering this release, and so the numbers are continuously improving for the better. And I love the bottom. Almost 3 million tests run, customer tests executed for updates. And looking at the past few releases, we have made significant improvements in automation to reduce the end-to-end timelines to help customers adopt the update. This data represents averages from both InsuranceSuite as well as Enterprise Engage, whether it's an implementation update or a production update. And again, the asterisk on the Hakuba data indicates that we are still delivering Hakuba, and therefore that data is constantly changing for the better. Here we can see the time it takes for both Guidewire to deliver an update from the time it is requested, and that the average for time for a customer to adopt the update are both shrinking. Guidewire has been delivering more updates to more customers more frequently, and simply put, each update is getting faster and smoother to adopt. But let's not take my word for it. I'd like to hear from another customer, Hollard down in Australia.
The first upgrade I was involved in was 2009 from 6.5 to 6.6. That was 2 developers for a month. With an update in Garmisch, it was 1 developer for 2 days. Our update process was made even more seamless by an investment in the GTUI and GT API tooling. The automated regression scripts that we have built in the product allow us to run with confidence tests across the application to provide those tests to Guidewire, ensuring that when we get the product delivered to us in our candidate release, it's not only been tested by Guidewire, it's also available for us to run. What we've learned from multiple updates is update frequently and update regularly. Those updates ensure that we have a good cadence and we can push those updates into production and keep current.
Update frequently and update regularly. You stole my pitch. That's awesome to hear from Hollard, especially their plan to stay current. And you've heard them on the main stage today say they would like to get to 3 a year. Guidewire will continue to invest in update automation across all of our products. So let's take a look at what's new, what's changed, and what's next to come. All of the work I'm about to describe to you fits broadly into 3 categories. And it's all an effort to move our entire ecosystem along the way to N-2 and eventually to that state where customers are only on N. Those 3 themes are ensuring updatability, automating delivery, and providing a smooth adoption experience. Since we've last talked in Las Vegas with the Hakuba release, we've added automated update deployments for InsuranceSuite and updatability checks as an EA program. And with Enterprise Engage, we have automated the initial update delivery mechanism. Now looking to Innsbruck, we have to remember that we're also delivering Innsbruck with this same mechanism and all of the security patches that go with it. But along with that, we've added some new features. InsuranceSuite updatability checks have become generally available. A new Bitbucket layer plugin to lock the Guidewire layer from being modified illegally, making your updates smoother. And an early access program to what we're calling an update preview, meaning you can see your update in your environments before GA. We've also added update education for InsuranceSuite and Enterprise Engage. Taking a look at Data Hub and Info Center, as well as the Guidewire testing framework, in the Innsbruck timeframe, we will be testing with select customers the automation for update delivery on those tools. And we've streamlined our planning into this simple chart. For those of you who have more questions or want to get more details, this chart is available in the Guidewire documentation. And if you're wondering about your update plan, and how you should go about it, speak with your technical account manager, as you know them, your TAM, to help you with your update planning. Looking at this table, InsuranceSuite has the most update automation and has the most pre-validation done. It's the most mature on our update process. InsuranceSuite customers are spending approximately 1 to 3 weeks to validate and adopt their update. Enterprise Engage customers are spending approximately 3 to 4 weeks to validate and adopt their update. And Data Hub and Info Center customers are spending approximately 4 to 6 weeks to validate and adopt their update. Now, until Data Hub and Info Center is automated, it's manual. So Guidewire has to staff, and therefore there's a lead time. This fiscal year, our goals and objectives are largely focused on reducing the timelines for Data Hub and Info Center updates, as well as bringing Enterprise Engage updates into parity with InsuranceSuite. And Guidewire has refreshed our version compliance standards, meaning they've changed, to become a one-stop shop for all version compliance inquiries. We have defined version compliance for the initial go-live, helping customers only go live on a reasonably latest version that's available. And we have defined version compliance for ongoing development. So that way customers can choose what version they want to be on as long as they're within N-2 compliance. So please, don't be trying to do the date math here. We have a schedule for version compliance. We also have all the details of what happens when you start to fall out of compliance. And I'm going to cover all of that here, and it's in our standard, the one-stop shop. That's a lot of text. Don't worry about reading it. I'm going to provide you a summary. A lot begins to happen when a customer falls out of compliance. It starts with notifications to the customer, so that way we can discuss and commit to a plan to get back into compliance. Guidewire will disable self-service deployment capabilities for releases that are out of compliance and reserves the right to automatically push and deploy the most latest available version. Support will begin to have limitations, since Guidewire will be limited on an old version that they can't well support. Patches are only provided to customers with N-2 on N-2 versions with the expectation that they will be adopted. One exception to that is if a critical security event would happen, as we all remember Log4j, Guidewire will patch all version usages that are out there. Legacy contract structures may begin to trigger support fees. All of our enablement from Guidewire is only provided on the latest available version. If you would like to participate in early access programs, they are constricted by being within N-1 support. And more self-service options as we move forward will begin to become restricted as a customer falls out of compliance. So please plan and align to our update compliance schedule so that way we can all stay current. The update compliance schedule. This schedule is designed for all of our teams to quickly look visually and understand if they're going to be in compliance with their ideas for planning. Green indicates that the usage is in compliance. Orange highlights that the Flen release, N-3, is falling out of compliance with the release of Innsbruck on December 1st. And gray indicates that these releases are out of compliance, and therefore would expect to have those release versions blocked from self-service deployment capabilities. And as I mentioned, the self-service deployment capabilities will be blocked for out of compliance releases. The blocking is starting on December 1st or in coordination with the Innsbruck release, in case that date would change. Staying in compliance is continuing to get easier as Guidewire continues to invest in more automation for updates at scale. With Jasper, we intend to solve the enterprise xEngage deployment to the GW update planet, removing the need for VDIs and enabling an early access program for enterprise xEngage update previews. We also will add third-party library update testing, as well as policy with InsuranceSuite to support the testing that we'll be adding. And with Data Hub and Info Center, we will mature that initial offering of automation to be update delivery at scale with all customers. And with CoFree, that's pronounced CoFree in case you're wondering, we intend to start transitioning our customers from what is an update request model to an update push model. Customers using InsuranceSuite with no known updatability issues, select customers, will be moving towards this model as early as Innsbruck. And providing the update preview will become generally available to all of our customers. We also will begin to isolate out the Guidewire layer that will have been locked for a while by that Bitbucket plugin. And we'll begin to standardize the update validation environment so that way we can start focusing on executing customer deployment tests. With Las Lienes, update-involved personas will be added to our information architecture within GCC, and we aim to start executing then those customer deployment tests. Okay, one more shameless testimony here. Eric Marcoux, Vice President of Solution Optimization and Property Casualty Insurance over at Beneva, had this great quote that I'm paraphrasing here. In the past, it took our IT teams 12 months to conduct an upgrade, and they were not delivering business value. We went live on Guidewire Cloud Platform using Claim Center, and we were able to update within the first 4 months. We pushed the update on a Thursday, and everything was seamless on Friday morning. We can stay up to date with Guidewire Cloud Platform 3 times a year, getting access to many new features much quicker with minimum effort. That's an awesome quote from Eric, and that's exactly what Guidewire is striving for. Beneva plans to stay up to date 3 times a year, and Guidewire is committed to making that happen. So that was a lot of information, hopefully not new news, as we've been talking about this for a while, but we now have time for the rest of the session for questions. I have my colleague over here, Corbett, and if you raise your hand, we can run you over a microphone. Yeah, so I'll repeat the question. What's going on with Data Hub and Info Center? What's new? What's coming? Data Hub and Info Center is primarily being moved to Cloud Data Platform, where customers are using CDA. Customers can continue to have their investment with Data Hub and Info Center. The update schedule for Data Hub and Info Center will also be changed. Updates for Data Hub and Info Center will be annually instead of 3 times a year like the ski releases are, which will make it easier for customers to stay in compliance with this update schedule. Right now, the teams are heavily working on parity for financial reporting in Cloud Data Platform, so that way customers feel more comfortable moving to Cloud Data Platform. That's right. So the once a year update for customers who have Data Hub and Info Center are manual until we automate it. Our initial automation is coming with the Innsbruck release for just a few select customers for us to pilot and try, and then we will be rolling it out at scale. We're intending for Jasper, so March of next year. So what is the timelines for a migration from on-premise to cloud? Just Data Hub and Info. I don't have those numbers available to me. Sorry. I'm very much focused, as we heard in the beginning of the presentation, on keeping customers moving from update to update, ski resort to ski resort, not the transition process. But we can follow up and provide an answer on that. Good questions. Thank you.
Can you explain a little bit more about the push process versus pull?
Yeah, great question. Great question. It is coming in our future. Right now, if you want an update, you make a request through Community. And that request then gets put into a queue, and Guidewire is validating those updates. But for the most part, we already have you pre-validated, and we're waiting. So with select InsuranceSuite customers who have no updatability concerns, we will be ready to just push the update. No requests required. It'll just be available in your Bitbucket repository for you to pull into your ongoing development or whenever you're ready. To achieve that, we are nightly running update tests, as I mentioned, using our Snowcat process against both your development branch and your production branch. So shifting from a request process to a push model is very important for both us and our customers to provide the true value of the cloud and behave as a SaaS or PaaS solution. And that's part of the key steps to ensure that we're getting to a system where the customer can only be on N. If they don't have to worry about the update and it's always there, then it will be less concern for them. We should just raise hands wherever he's not, make him run for a while.
I don't know if it's part of a different session or this one, but can you explain how you or Guidewire team can keep current with all our functionality to test it in that pre-planning that you do to ensure that there won't be problems in the updates? Meaning, we have very specific carrier configurations, customizations. How do you keep current with what those are so you know how to test them?
Love the question. Thank you. So as part of our update process, there's a Guidewire layer and a customer layer. The very first thing that we're doing is we run audits. So we know if you've changed a file that's going to break the update. And we're exposing that audit mechanism now to you via this Bitbucket plugin. And we're just saying, well, instead of us auditing and telling you that, hey, you made an illegal file modification that will break the update, now we're saying, let's just lock them down. So the Bitbucket plugin will lock them and it will stop those illegal modifications from being made, making sure that the update process is seamless. However, nightly, while we run the update on every one of our cloud customers' configurations, we are also taking them through a compile, build, and then runtime exercise. And once we get them to runtime, because you have very different configurations and very different requirements, and you might be worried about the functional change, we execute our customers' tests before and after the update to make sure that we're not introducing any breaking changes using your own requirements to your system. Right now, today, we execute server-level tests. So that's GUnit and ISBTF. Whoa, hey, ISBTF is deprecated. I'm not asking anybody to invest further in that. But those are server-level tests that we both execute. And as I talked about in the roadmap, we're adding in deployment-level tests, GT API and GT UI. So the more customers invest in GT API and GT UI, the more Guidewire will have access centrally to those tests your requirements, and we'll be able to validate that we're not breaking your update.
Hey, Zach, my question is related to how the updates are being really utilized and adopted by the customer, because as you mentioned in your one of the slides that certain features, like maybe some technical updates, they are automatically enabled. But most of the features probably need some additional analysis or customization before the customer can truly enable those features. So are we making most of these updates predominantly as dormant updates, and then there is another effort from customer side to truly enable them and utilize those features? And some of them are truly at the early access level. So do you have any data or metrics to share on how the customers are truly capitalizing on these new features?
That's a great question. I don't have the metrics on how the customers are, but I'll tell you a little bit about our change in behavior. We initially, with the first updates that we pushed and provided, most of our development was still in the customer layer for these new features. We've challenged and changed the behavior of our internal development teams and measure their compliance to this to produce more Guidewire layer features, so that way they could be sitting dormant for a customer to be turning on as compared to configuring them. And when they're not doing that, we push all of the responsibility on them to make sure that their features are adoptable. As we all know, documentation's one step, but at the same time, who reads it unless you need it? And so we provide access through documentation for adopting those new features, but the majority of our new features are not in the customer layer. They are now in the Guidewire layers. We develop them going forward. And so customers have the ability to pick and choose which features they want. Why do we say that? Well, we became almost feature complete in policy, arguably in Policy Center 9 on what insurers were asking for the broad majority of non-extremely niche features. By that, every upgrade that you were taking on the self-managed world, you were getting a bunch of features that you didn't want. And so that was causing you to test and do more things, and upgrades were taking a lot longer. So in updates, we're not changing the customer layer. And we say, okay, if you want this one specific feature, you can adopt it, because we know that you don't want all 10 of them. You probably just want this one. And then we provide all the instructions on how to adopt it, and we challenge our developers to put more of those new features directly into the Guidewire layer, making them just dormant and ready. So some examples might help. Blue-green deployment, Guidewire layer. A new rating feature, maybe a new pricing feature, probably in the customer layer, because it's going to impact your business behaviors and activities. And you don't want Guidewire pushing that onto you, right? Unless you really want that feature. And so that gives you the ability to opt into, yeah, I want that rating feature. It's worth me investing and testing it. But I like your question about the numbers. I'll follow up on that.
Do you anticipate any changes to contracts as Guidewire pushes more out of N-2 and more toward N to enforce certain things happening? So you had the slide about what happens if you're beyond N-2. Now that you're getting to a push model and trying to get everyone more up to date, do you anticipate that contracts and demands for customers change with that?
I appreciate that. I stood up in this guy's wedding and he's throwing me all the hardballs. So yes, contracts are changing frequently. Depending on when you move to the cloud, you may have contract A, and we've had more than several versions since as we've progressed our update strategy. And so different customers are on different contract versions that are finely tuning the language to help support the product strategy and alignment with what customers want as well. Otherwise, they're not going to sign these contracts. Bottom line is, I can give you an example. I mentioned when a customer falls out of compliance, some things that could happen. And I said there's an extended support fee schedule. And most of us in the room, if you've been on self-managed, you know about the extended support fee. If you get too far out, you have to start paying it, and there's percentage points to that. It's not really a stick, right? A lot of customers would just take that and they would pay that. And so what we do is we change it. We say there's no point of that in the contract anymore. Extended support fees are out the window. You just have to stay on the latest for the security protocols, since we operate the system and all these other pieces with technical currency. And so that's the way the contracts are increasingly becoming worded. So that way it's just about Guidewire has the right to deploy and keep you on the latest and help change the insurance company's behavior to want to stay on the latest as well. And that's really the challenge that we see at times is helping customers switch from that on-premise behavior to a cloud behavior where they want the updates. You're going to owe me a drink later. You got two questions.
No problem. 6 o'clock at Fuse. 6 o'clock at Fuse.
Yeah.
I had the...
Thank you. About the Guidewire testing model for the customers, it will cover all the X centers and digital portals, or should I evaluate a third-party software to apply, for example, regression testing in our application?
I love the question. Thank you. So I also own and manage the Guidewire testing framework, so that's right in my wheelhouse. We provide in the Guidewire testing framework 3 primary capabilities: API testing, UI testing, as well as load testing. G-units, something separate for the unit testing. Does it cover the entire suite of applications? Absolutely. It covers them from those 3 perspectives. It also covers all of our digital applications. And for Data Hub and Info Center, you're looking more to test ETL processes. What we find is GTUI, the Guidewire testing framework UI capability, is valuable to help preload data as part of some of the data checking processes, but of course ETL is not checked that way, right? So it's just good to help you get the preload through that, or in some cases API as well. And so that's what we see customers doing right now. It does extend to cover all of those suites, and since they're industry standard tools, GT API is Karate, and GTUI is Test Cafe, you can use them for the rest of your enterprise as well. You're not just limited to the Guidewire technical stack. So, in that regards, if you're looking to consolidate some of your other testing frameworks and tools, once Guidewire moves in and you see the value and you want to invest in it, you also have that ability. You can use this for test cases well outside of the Guidewire ecosystem.
My question is around how you convince the clients to do those updates, because my experience, I've been involved in a couple of those. So you go live on a certain version. We went live on Elysian. And that's it. The customer is saying, you know what, leave me alone. We just finished that, right? Let me rest. I don't want to hear about updates or upgrade, anything like that. They're already in production, so it's challenge number 1. My other challenge in the current program is we are still in development, and we want to stay current, and we want to go live on the latest version for go live. So we're saying, okay, let's do an update. And the customer is saying, no, we are doing UAT now. So you will do an update, you will break everything. Now we need to retest UAT and stuff like that. So there is lots of kind of fear and resistance from the client because they still have this old experience of those painful upgrades. So how can we convince them? What else can we say? Like, we got you, it's not going to be painful, it's a few days, right? What else can we do to eliminate that fear that the clients have?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, and it is change management, right? We're changing expectations and behaviors in some firms. Some firms are pushing us in the opposite direction, so we see both sides. The main thing is Guidewire needs to deliver consistently with swift updates for customers. The only way we build trust is being consistent over time. And we have a bunch of trust from our customers, which has gotten us this far, but when it comes to updates, it's another level that we need to build. When it comes to updates themselves, we offer options. You can update your production branch, or you can update your ongoing implementation branch, which is what I mentioned earlier. We're running those updates at the same time for both, so that way a customer can quickly adopt that update based off of what they're saying. And I like that you mentioned ongoing development. Most of our customers are getting the most efficient experience by consistently pulling the update into their ongoing development and reusing their existing SDLC that they're going through to validate it. Customers like Hollard were able to update in, I think it was 24 to 48 hours. They pulled it in, they didn't see any issues, they merged it quickly with their devs, and they just went on their way. And they used the rest of their SDLC, which they had within their project lifecycle, to do a lot of that additional validation instead of a separate regression. We would like to see more of that behavior. Again, that's on Guidewire, to build the trust with the customer by proving it at scale. Good question. I don't know what they got. They got AC/DC in there. We're missing out.
For the customers that are N-2 or further back, does Guidewire run all of their tests through the multiple versions that they would have to go through? So if they're on Flane, and right now it's Hakuba or Innsbruck, is Guidewire running all of the tests against Garmisch, Hakuba, and Innsbruck?
I love the question. It is a canonical model. So when you get to the latest release, it contains all of the others. And so by running the latest, we don't have to necessarily do that, but we still do. Because a customer can make a decision that maybe they don't want to go to Innsbruck, they want to just go to Hakuba. And so when we say that we support N-2, we are still executing all of the tests and all of the updates nightly, not just against one version, but against all 3 versions.
Follow up to that. Is it going to be common where a customer would not want the latest and instead run into issues trying to go to the N-1 or even just to get back to N-2?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I don't see that as often. We obviously have to build the trust with our customers. I don't see them not wanting to go to the latest. I see them more, if I'm going to put in the effort to do the update, I want to take the latest so I get the longest return on investment out of the update that I take. And that's why we have the update preview, even shifting it left further so customers can start seeing their update a month before it even becomes generally available.
So today, customers that have on-prem have a certain compliance or conformance that they're allotted from out of the box, right? You want us to be 95%, some are 85, 70.
Sure.
What's the number when it's in the cloud? If there's somebody who's an N2 or an N3 and they're not in the compliance, or what makes them stay in compliance or in that percentage that you want them to be in?
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting way to kind of look at it. Generally speaking, we help customers try to stay 95% out of the box is, I think what you're saying, right? Well, what if I'm only 90%? Is that going to impact my update path? We don't have any data to say that it would. Because what we've done is we've isolated out the Guidewire layer. We completely rip and replace that with every release. And so as long as your changes are in the right layer, in the right spots, it should be relative if you have 500,000 code files changed or 20, right? And so we have done updates on some very large, complex customers, pushing where they have more configuration than there is out of the box code. And there's been no correlation between how close they were out of the box to how easy it is for us to update them. That said, for your own maintainability and reuse of investment, if you can stay closer out of the box, and Guidewire is now delivering new features on a more rapid cadence, let's look ahead at the roadmap and try not to build everything ourselves, and let's try to align. Good question.
Another one. With the features that Guidewire releases in their updates, what is Guidewire's role, or what role do they play in the pattern where Guidewire delivers a feature, but the customer has already customized something for it? So a piece of functionality that is customized, that is now released with a new feature, does Guidewire assist with that transition, or is it the customer is responsible because it is available now with the updated feature? Now the customer has to do the work too.
Yeah, that's. I love the question. I'm gonna give you an example. We are adding an add your own testing feature. If you went to some of the Cloud Data Platform sessions today, you'll have noticed it, and it's currently going to go early access with Innsbruck. Many of our customers, which had their own existing testing frameworks, were building workarounds to support their existing testing investments because Guidewire testing framework's integrated with Guidewire Cloud Platform, but their third-party framework was not. So, what's going to happen when we add that feature and we make it generally available? It's going to be EA, and then it'll be generally available, hopefully before Jasper, depending on how the EA program matures. We're not going to tell customers that they need to redo an integration, right? Because simply put, from a customer perspective, it's I have A, and it works, and then you're telling me to move to B, and I get nothing out of this, right? And so we won't force anybody's hand in that regard. The feature will be there, and if they no longer want to maintain it on their side, they can transition. And so that's the way I would kind of position that. There has to be a return on investment for the customer to make that move, whether it's in maintenance over time or maybe different features have different bells and whistles associated to it, but it'll be value driven. With one exception. If it blocks updates, then we'll ask you to move, and then Guidewire will have a vested investment to figure out how to help you guys get there. Drinks? I'm seeing a lot of head nodding. All right, thank you so much for your time today. Please do provide us feedback in the app so that way we can continuously improve every year. And every recommendation or review that you leave gets you entered in to win prizes, so it's just worth doing anyways. Thank you very, very much for coming today and hearing about updates. If you have further questions around them, you can contact me using the app. You can find me here at the event, or you can shoot me an email here on the screen. Please have a good rest of your day, and I hope to see you at the Customer Appreciation event.